Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today, but first, I have a question. Jeff, how are you doing today?
Today.
It's a big question.
Yeah. So, one of my coworkers.
Oh, I don't like where this is going, Jeff.
Yep, they got the old what's-its.
The old / new
Yeah.
coronavirus.
So one of my coworkers. Luckily, it is a coworker that I do not have direct contact with. In fact, for some reason, this particular coworker doesn't seem to like me very much, so he avoided me anyway.
Well, there you go. You heard it here first, people. Make your coworkers hate you.
Right? Yeah, that's all you got to do. I mean, I've made a big stink at my work that people need to be like avoiding each other, but they don't. But at the very least, they're avoiding me. So
yeah,
I'm not. And it sucks because like I had a medical procedure I had to do tomorrow, and I had to cancel that because the place is like, no, we're not going to let you in.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's understandable. So like, I won't get into the exact details of anything because I don't want to,
heart transplant. It's okay. You can say it's a heart transplant.
No, I was donating a heart actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You were so close, Gabe. So yeah, it's been a rough day. But gotcha. We're just gonna take things cautiously and one day at a time. I won't go into the details of work either because I don't want to, not that anybody at my work listens to my podcast, but I just don't want to
call somebody out.
Hey, everybody! You know how you feel about your boss? Me too. That's about that's as specific as I'll get.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah. So I've actually got a day off this week because we have a friend that's visiting from out of town. Haley, she was on one of our bonus episodes like a couple years ago. She's a friend of ours from Georgia. We visited them in the past. She came to visit here because she got laid off or something, and so she's been pretty much quarantined for the last couple weeks. And so figured, might as well come and visit, I guess. So we've been hanging out with her. I was actually trying to see if she wanted to be on the podcast today, but she didn't want to. So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're kind of lame, so I get it.
I mean, I am kind of a nerd,
Yeah,
so
it's understandable.
But so one thing I do want to say, today's episode, we are going to be announcing the winner of the physical copy of the Deck of Many Things and the Deck of Illusions. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Although a little bit of an insider thing, we're recording this ahead of time.
Yeah.
So
we technically don't know who the winner is.
Yes. We'll be recording the winner in several days, and then I'll slot it in there.
Right. You'll hear it though.
Yes. So not really much else. Just kind of been, hanging out, playing. We've been intending to play board games, but we haven't actually played any board games yet.
Oh, sure.
We went to Hell today.
You should.
Drove out to Hell, Michigan, because I know a while back I was talking about. I discovered that's very close.
Yeah.
So
it's not. Yeah.
We took our friend there. She was not impressed because it's like 2 buildings and a mini golf course.
Right. I highly I never thought that Hell, Michigan was going to be this like cool place to visit. It's just a town.
Yeah.
Called Hell.
I got a pasty there though.
Oh.
And it's pretty good.
Yeah.
For anybody not from Michigan, a pasty is a meat pie basically, but it's like a Michigan thing.
Is it? Is that a Michigan thing?
It's like an Upper Peninsula Michigan thing.
All right.
That's my understanding anyway.
I don't know because in my mind the word pasty is just like it's that sounds very like British. It's like that's like what the British call that's like the British version of an empanada.
Oh yeah, I mean maybe.
So it's like we're gonna go down and get a pasty. That's That's what I always thought that was. I don't know. I thought
no,
I didn't.
It's
know
actually
that's
Italian. Have some pasty.
It's a pasty. No, I was like, you're gonna have some pesto pasta with your pasty.
This part is awful. I'm probably going to cut this whole part out.
No, it stays in, or we're going to put it in Dinner Party Conflict.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Our next episode that will eventually come out, just like Pierogi Con.
What are you talking about, Jeff? We've been making episodes. That's our side podcast we've been making for the last 2 years.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know why we don't have any listens on that though.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep putting it on the wrong subreddit. Maybe that's what it is.
Sure.
So anyway, you want to go ahead and get into this episode?
Yeah.
Okay. So Jeff, I want you to imagine that, someday in the past when you didn't have all of this stuff to worry about, you're at work and it's getting close to the end of the day. And your boss actually says, "Hey, Jeff, you've been doing a good job. I'm going to give you some extra responsibilities. I want you to lock up today." And your boss tosses you this big old ring of keys. And you've seen this big old ring of keys. The keys are like heavy and iron and brass and whatnot.
They're like a little rusty.
A little bit, yeah. And then, so your boss says to you, "Okay, before you leave today, there's that door in the back that you've always been told never to open. I want you to open that door. Take a look inside, make sure, I don't know, there aren't any rats back there or something. And then close and lock the door. Okay, Jeff, can you do that?"
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So then he dips out. And then he realizes because there's a snowstorm and he didn't want to get caught in the snow. But you're still going to be stuck at work. Sucks to be you, I guess. That's a true story that happened to me. So,
oh man.
Anyway, so it's the end of the day. You've got this big old ring of keys. You walk into the back room and sure enough, there's that big iron door. The big rusty iron door that you've always been told, don't open this door under any circumstances. So what do you do, Jeff?
Oh yeah, I'm open. I'm gonna open that thing.
Okay. Give me a strength check because it's like a big heavy
rusty
lock
iron
on there. And who knows why you were told never to open the door if it's got a lock on it? Obviously, you're not going to open the door. Right. I didn't mention you work at a rogues gallery.
I got a 16.
Okay. Yeah. So you're strong enough. You ate your Wheaties that day. So you put in the key, you crank it open, and this gigantic door, it slowly creaks open. And then you glance inside because you were told to check for rats or something like that. And you poke your head in and you realize you think you know why you were never told to open this door. And this isn't like a storeroom. I guess in a way it's a storage room, but do you know what's being stored in this room, Jeff?
What is it, Gabe?
You see a giant pile of gold, you see rubies, and then you start piecing this together and you remember your boss is about 30 feet tall. Your boss has red scales and breathes fire every now and then. And then you realize that behind this door is the dragon's horde.
Oh man, Gabe, I feel like this series of Dragon's Horde intros is basically just the story of me having rolled 1 on all my perception checks to identify dragons or something.
Well, yeah, I was making rolls actually behind the DM screen.
Yeah.
Behind the pop filter, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So today's magic item was submitted by Dustin via Discord. And I'll give a little teaser here. Dustin says that this is the most dangerous item he's submitted.
Ooh.
Yeah. So today's magic item is called Gravitic Chaos. And this is a legendary artifact.
Okay.
Those who travel the planes tell horror stories of the plane of limbo, a place of pure chaos. The very land melds to any form desired by the willful. One such explorer managed to bring a piece back. Suspended within 3 rings of pure diamond, this amorphous gray mass undulates with barely controlled fury. The rings of the artifact float independently, and the whole object hovers in place wherever it is moved. Arcane symbols flare around the rings as they spin, holding the mass at bay. Speaking the word of activation weakens the containment field. Anyone within 60 feet of the artifact must make an athletics check, DC 20, at the end of every round of activation. Failure results in that character being flung in a random direction, including up or down, 1d4 squares. So roll a d10. 1 is forward, 3 is right, 5 is back, 7 is left, and then 2, 4, 6, and 8 are the diagonals. 9 is down, 0 is up.
Okay.
Or, I mean, that's however you want. I would just say however you want to determine what direction they go. Impacting another person or object deals 2d6 bludgeoning damage to both. Those thrown upward will take fall damage upon landing. Anyone who managed to grab the activated artifact must make a DC 20 strength check to hold on or be thrown 1d8 squares in a random direction, including up or down. In this case, impacting an object or person deals 4d6 bludgeoning damage to both. A DC 20 Arcana check will reveal the activation or deactivation words inscribed on the rings. An Identify spell will also reveal the words. So, it's kind of like a little miniature black hole or something.
Yeah.
Encased in kind of like if you've ever seen one of those like gyroscopes in a gyroscope. Those things that are like, it's like rings that are spinning in different directions inside one another.
Yeah.
It's one of those, but Dustin said to picture like a blob of jello in the middle of there. Or if you're British, a blob of jelly in the middle of there.
I'm picturing the like a smaller version of the big machine from the movie Contact.
Okay. It's been a long time since I've seen Contact, but I think
with
that's
Jodie Foster.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically just what you said. It's like 3 big metal rings that all like rotate on different axes, and they kind of just like imagine like the model of an atom.
Sure. Sure.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever really dealt with a magic item that is like gravity based or. I mean, I guess this isn't explicitly gravity-based. I'm thinking of it as being gravity-based, but...
sure.
It's just kind of... I mean, it's called gravitic chaos, so I guess it is in some way gravity-based.
Yeah.
But yeah, this definitely seems like something that would fit in like a sci-fi campaign.
Yeah.
But,
I really like the idea of a piece of the plane of limbo.
Yeah.
Was removed from limbo and is now just like this artifact.
Sure.
Because you could basically make that thing do whatever you want pretty much. Like as a DM, it's like, yeah, it's a piece of limbo. It's chaos. It's gonna do whatever I want it to do.
Yeah, I actually feel like if it is supposed to be a piece of limbo, which is pure chaos, I feel like there should be more things it does. I'm not saying that this item should do more things, just that like maybe I would change the theming a little bit. I maybe wouldn't make it limbo, but I don't know what I would make it in exchange. If it was like, because if it was just a piece of pure chaos, I would expect like, oh yeah, sometimes it'll summon some sheep and then it'll like, I don't know, devour a chunk of the earth or something. I don't know. I would give a bunch of other random effects to go along with it.
Yeah.
But for something that is just kind of like a piece of gravity, I guess, if this was like a piece of a black hole, then
right.
this would be perfect. Like the mechanics would be perfect for what that is. Yeah, I think that this is definitely something that's dangerous. It's dangerous because it's uncontrolled. If you turn it off or if you use the command word, it kind of is just gonna tear everything apart around it.
Right. Yeah.
If something bad happened, if you got hit by a flying piece of, terrain or a person or something, and then you weren't able to say the command word to turn it off, that'd be real bad.
Yeah, it's something like if let loose in like a town or something, like, oh man.
Sure. This feels like something that you would see in the SCP wiki.
Okay, yeah.
Which is like it's like this community project on the internet of like weird, people writing like basically weird magic items, but it's not like in a fantasy setting. They are presented as if it's like some government organization has this very dangerous artifact and this is what it does.
Mm-hmm.
So this definitely seems like something you would see on there.
Yeah.
But I think this is a really cool item. I think it's scary,
Sure.
It's got some great theming. I would, again, personally, I think I would change the theming a little bit, but I don't think everybody would necessarily agree with me. It's not bad by any means, as is, I think it's still great. So yeah, I think it's really cool. Mm-hmm. I would like to try something like this as a plot hook. Maybe the bad guy or somebody else turned it on and didn't turn it off, and now the players have to figure out how to disable it while it wreaks havoc.
Yeah, they gotta like get close enough to it.
Yeah,
like maybe even it gets stronger the longer it goes. Or something.
Okay, yeah. It here's another thing. It doesn't really suck things in. That's another, like, if I was gonna make it more like a black hole, I would have it suck things in instead of just throw things around. And if I did that, then yeah, maybe as it sucked in more things, it would get stronger or something. I don't know. But again, that's kind of a different item.
Sure.
So yeah, anyway, I don't really have much else to say about this. It's a cool item. It's definitely terrifying. Good job, Dustin, for coming up with that.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody else wanted to submit magic items like Dustin did, submit magic items for the Dragon's Horde, or if they want to submit questions for us to discuss, or stories for the funeral pyre or retirement village, Jeff, how would they do that?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And before we go any further, we have our weekly giveaway of Unearthed Tips and Tricks Volume 1, courtesy of Crit Academy. This is a great supplement that includes 25 character concepts, 25 encounter concepts, monster variants, magic items, player tips and DM tips, all from the Crit Academy podcast. It's full of great stuff that every player, every DM can use. Great stuff in there. I helped them write it, so I know firsthand it is really, really cool. So we're giving away a free copy of this. And who is our winner this week?
This week's winner is, oh God, it's Mason.
Whoa, winner. Gobble. Yes, congratulations. Oh God, it's Mason. You should be getting that in your email pretty soon.
Look out.
Be sure to leave Crit Academy a review, on DM's Guild, Drive Through RPG. I don't recall exactly which platform they send it out through, but leave them a review so that more people can see their product. They can know what to improve in future products and so on. If you haven't gotten that within a few days, let me know. But yeah, I think it's a great supplement, and congratulations for winning that. Oh God, it's Mason.
God.
Jeff, if anybody else wanted to be like, oh God, it's Mason, and they wanted to win a free copy of this supplement, how would they do so?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with unearthed tips and tricks in the subject line, and then later on, I guess,
something else. We'll be giving away something else within the next few weeks. So keep an eye out.
Yeah. So yeah, just get those like emails ready to go, and just have the subject line left blank, and then you just quickly type it in so you can enter it right away.
I suppose if you want to.
Yeah. Save a draft.
Speaking of giveaways, though, we are doing our giveaway for the Deck of Many Things and the Deck of Illusions, courtesy of cultzilla.co.uk.
Mm-hmm.
So, the winner of this drawing, is Dustin. Dang! Congratulations, Dustin.
Man,
we got a whole bunch of more reviews than I was expecting, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it was a decent amount. Yeah, because I think at the beginning we were like, not a lot of people have been entering yet, but
it took them a little while, but it turned out really good.
Yeah.
So huge thank you to everybody. Dustin, I will be getting in touch with you to get your information. I don't think that will be hard. He's pretty active, but again, thank you to everybody who did leave us reviews. It's awesome. I really, really appreciate it. And I think we might even do some more of these in the future.
Yeah.
We'll come up with details if and when we decide to do that. So, So I think this was really successful. I think this was a great idea. And thank you to the anonymous listener who submitted these decks for us to give out. We really appreciate it. You know who you are. Just again, huge thank you to everybody. Good job, Dustin. Good job, everybody else. Good luck next time.
Sure. Yeah.
And so next up, I want to tell everybody about our Patreon. Patreon's an online platform. You can pledge to donate a certain amount of money per month to the creator of your choice. If you head to patreon.com/interpartyconflict, you can see what rewards we have for our different donation tiers. We've got outtakes. We've got fantasy fiction that I've written. We've got a monthly bonus podcast that we've been meaning to come out with for a few weeks. I don't know if it'll be out by the time this episode goes out. And then we've got a monthly Roll20 game that is, I think, the conclusion of our storyline so far is going to be happening the day this episode goes out. So if you hear this episode and it's early in the day and you want to join us for this last session, join immediately. send us an email. So, so check those out. Some cool stuff on there. If you want to help out the show and get some cool stuff in return, go to patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. And of course, a huge thank you to everybody who has continued to donate to us. We know times are tough right now. We really appreciate everybody who's been willing to donate. Anybody who has not been able to donate, don't worry about it. It's, we understand. Thank you to everybody out there, and you guys are awesome. You guys keep the lights on. And then one more thing, check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy at critacademy.com. They're a podcast where they make new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. Also check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They're an actual play podcast. They've been on hiatus for a while, but I believe they're coming back pretty soon. And then check out D&D Character Lab. They're not making episodes anymore, but their old episodes are there and they are awesome. So check those all out. Enough of all that. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
Okay, our first question comes from Dustin.
Woo.
And this was on Discord. Which is more powerful, having proficiency in something or having advantage on a skill or a save?
Yeah, so, maybe if somebody isn't familiar with D&D, let's assume that at least some of our listeners don't know what either of those mechanics are.
Sure.
Advantage is a mechanic in 5th edition D&D that's very simple. It's anytime you are in some situation that is like perfect for what you're trying to do. If you have a really good tool, if you have like the perfect tool for the job, if you're attacking someone that is blind and can't defend you, first off, shame on you. Don't attack blind people. But if your target doesn't know you're there, so like you're sneak attacking them or whatever, things like that, you have what's called advantage. So you roll the 20-sided die twice, and you take the higher of the two results.
Yeah.
However, if you're in a situation where you're in the opposite situation, you are blind and you're just blindly swinging at people you can hear but not see, you would roll 2d20s and take the lower of the two. Anyway, so advantage is a very easy way for the Dungeon Master to just give you here's a quick little, for lack of a better term, advantage on the thing you are currently trying to do. Mm. So there's that. Then there's also proficiency, is when your character is trained in the use of a particular weapon, a particular skill, something like that. You have a bonus that you add to what you roll that increases as you level up. First level character, your proficiency bonus is going to be +2. And then that scales slowly, but it eventually comes out to a +6 starting at level 16 or something like that. I don't actually know the number offhand. But
I can't remember. I'm pretty sure you get to +3 at level 5, and then it kind of keeps going up from there.
So the question is, which is better, to have 2 d20s that you can roll and take the higher of the two, or to have this bonus this just static bonus that you add to all of the rolls involving things you're proficient in?
I think right off the bat, I would assume that advantage is the bigger advantage.
Okay.
Is the more powerful. Well, I don't know how true this is, but I think I remember reading once somewhere that it's like having advantage is basically effectively having a +5.
Yeah, well, I've heard
statistically or something, as far as probabilities and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard two different numbers actually. I've heard a lot of people say that it's the equivalent of rolling a 15, because an average roll on a d20 is a 10.
Sure.
So then somehow or another you can then figure out that rolling 2 d20s, the average roll would be somewhere around a 15. That feels a bit too convenient to me, and I feel like I've heard elsewhere that it's not quite a 15. It's more like statistically speaking, it's like a 13 or something.
Sure.
I don't know enough about how to do the math in order to do the math. So I don't know which of those is more correct. But let's say a 13 or a 15. Let's split the difference. Let's say a 14.
Okay.
So rolling with advantage is like taking a 14 on your roll.
Yeah. So just by numbers, you could say they're they're not far off from each other, and it depends on the level and stuff.
Sure.
But I mean, a proficiency, you have proficiency. I don't think there's anything that would ever take away proficiency. So if you have it, you have it. But advantage, you have to meet certain requirements or have a certain like class ability that allows you to get advantage in specific situations.
Sure.
So I mean, like, proficiency is going to be the most reliable.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what the context was for this question. The actual discussion on the Discord was a while back, and I didn't go back to check the context for doing this episode. But I imagine this sort of a thing would come up fairly often if you were, say, making a new class or making like a new magic item or something like that, and you're trying to decide, should I have a class ability that gives a player proficiency on something, or a class ability that gives them advantage on something? Because you want ways to give a player some sort of, a bonus to something or an advantage to something, again, for lack of a better term. So I could imagine those two being the two choices. Right. Also, because there are certain class abilities or such where you might already have proficiency, but then there will be a class ability or whatever that gives you expertise, which is you add your proficiency bonus a second time.
Yeah, and that's huge.
Sure. So like, let's say you already have proficiency and then you're trying to decide, do I give them a second proficiency, like double proficiency, or do I give them advantage? Because, again, I think those are two similar types of things that a class ability could give you, or a magic item or whatever. And so I could see someone trying to decide between those two. So I think numbers wise, assuming that advantage is in fact a 14 or so, then advantage is better at first. Depending on the level, as the players level up, proficiency would equal more, until advantage is equaling a 16 or higher, proficiency is going to be better at a +6,
Right. There's also there are certain abilities that go off of your that trigger when you have advantage. So like sneak attack. So in that situation, like for a rogue, having advantage is going to be really good. Yeah. So it could technically be more powerful in that regard. I can't think of any other abilities that would trigger like that off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's a few.
Yeah. And I mean, hey, you could always introduce a new ability that's like, whenever you have advantage on something, on this particular roll, this cool thing happens.
Yeah.
Now, I guess the question should be asked, though, not necessarily which is better, but which is more fun.
I mean, advantage is more fun. You're rolling 2 dice, Gabe. Yeah. Like that's twice the amount of fun you get from rolling a dice.
That's true.
Here, I'm gonna do it right now.
Okay.
Watch. That's 1 dice. That's pretty fun. Oh, there's another one.
Yeah. Because also with
advantage, I got a 17. With disadvantage, I got a 5.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, and also with advantage, that's double chances of getting a crit.
Right. Yep.
Not many players are going to pass up on that.
Mm-hmm. You know what we should bring up is we should bring up Pathfinder 2nd edition, like how their sort of flavor of this.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and tell us.
So there is proficiency in Pathfinder 2nd edition, but it is it goes up every level. Mm-hmm. It is like you have like ranks of proficiency, sort of. Okay. So like you can be untrained in a skill, trained, expert, master, or legendary. And then each level of those gives you like another +2. So like when you're untrained, you don't get a bonus. You're not proficient.
Sure.
When you're trained, you get a +2, +1 and then +1 for every level for your level.
Yeah. So it starts off small, but gets real big.
Yeah, it gets real big, and then and then as you rank up to expert, master, and legendary, you are getting an extra 2, which isn't like huge, but it's still a boost. But the main thing is like that unlocks newer skill feats.
Yeah.
So like if you're legendary in athletics, you have access to this skill feat called Cloud Jump, which basically makes you able to just because in Pathfinder 2nd edition you have 3 actions that you can take.
Yeah.
And through skill feats, you can make it so jumps only take 1 action. So you could basically jump 3 times in a turn. But Cloud Jump allows you to basically pool all of those together into one big jump.
Oh boy! So wait, hold up, Jeff. So it gives you a double jump.
Yeah, basically. Well,
that's how I would flavor it. I mean, I imagine it's probably I imagine it's probably you make like one jump that is 3 times as high.
Yeah, but I mean, flavor it however you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna flavor it as I jump and then I jump again and then I jump again.
There's even a skill feat. There's even a skill feat that's a wall jump where like if you are like you can basically jump and then if you're next to a wall you can jump again off of that wall.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that one is through like what you have to be master or not. You don't have to be legendary for that one. But anyway, so proficiency, they have it. It's just it works a little bit differently. There's this ranking system that allows you to unlock newer skill feats, and then it also goes up with your level fairly high. Like it's a higher number system by far than 5th edition.
Sure.
D&D, and then there are some instances it's not called advantage, but there will be sometimes they have you roll a second dice, but typically they have you take whatever the second roll is.
Sure.
So like the luck feat from 5th edition D&D is like you basically do you re-roll or is it technically advantage?
It's advantage, but it stacks with advantage. Like you re-roll, but you can choose either one.
Sure, yeah. So yeah, with the lucky feat in 5th edition D&D, you basically like you roll again and can choose whichever one you want. So obviously the higher one.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you don't.
I mean, depending, because you can force someone else to use one of your D20 roll.
Yeah, but there's a similar feat in Pathfinder 2 that is like, you get whenever you roll a dice, you can re-roll your D20, but you have to take the second one. So. Sure.
I feel like that's how it was in like 3rd edition D&D, which Pathfinder is largely following.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that should be considered if you are, coming up with a class ability or whatever that you're trying to choose between proficiency and advantage is that a lot of things can give you advantage and advantage doesn't stack.
So if you want your player to be able to have advantage more consistently, then you could give them that. But yeah, you're right. Like there are plenty of other ways to get it.
Yeah. Like if you're playing a character that already can get advantage from something else, advantage from this class ability or whatever isn't going to be as powerful. In that case, having more proficiency would actually be more powerful because you already have advantage. So that's not a benefit. It's being squandered to an extent.
Yeah.
Just in general, like if it were me, I personally would probably choose the proficiency. I know that it's more fun to roll dice, but the consistency is what I would probably want to go for personally.
Yeah.
But I can definitely understand a lot of people loving rolling dice. I mean, that's the whole, that's the game is a lot of people enjoy rolling dice. And so rolling more is generally good.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. So I think numerically advantage is better early on. Proficiency is better later on. However, there is quite a bit of nuance to that.
Mm-hmm. All right. Our next question comes from the Beverage Tea on Discord, and they ask, have you ever used the DMG's scroll mishap table or anything similar?
Yeah. So, just right off the bat, no, I haven't, but not because I don't like it or anything, just because it's never come up. I've never been in a game where someone has tried using a scroll that was beyond them and failed.
Sure.
Because I guess I'm not super familiar with the 5th edition version, but like in earlier editions, it was real hard to fail that.
Yeah.
You could do it, but you had a very, very high chance of success. Mm-hmm. But I have the rules here so I can go through them if you want me to. Yeah. But like to answer the question, like I haven't, but I really like the idea of it.
Sure.
So the way that in 5th edition D&D, at least, the way that scrolls work, a spell scroll is it essentially just casts the spell and then the magic item is gone. And then it uses a predetermined set of stats to determine how powerful it is. So if the spell is on your class's list, so if it's a wizard, if you're a wizard and it's a spell that is on the wizard list, cool. If it's a wizard spell, but you're a bard that has added that spell to your spell list, you can use it. If you're a cleric and it's on the cleric list, if you're a druid, it's on the druid list, whatever. If it's on your class's list, you can use it pretty much exactly as is. However, if it is of a level you can't normally cast, if it's too high of a level for you, that's when you have to make a check or possibly have a mishap. So the check is, in this edition, it's still fairly easy. The DC is 10 plus the spell's level. So if you're casting a first level spell off a scroll, I mean, you can always cast it. If it's on your list, you can always cast a first level spell. Let's say it's a second level spell and you're a first level caster. The DC is going to be 12, and that's an ability. It's a spell casting ability check. So if your spell casting ability score is +2, if it's a 15, then you have a 50-50 chance of casting successfully, 50-50 chance of failing. In earlier editions, it was it was basically like if you were if you were casting like a third level spell, the DC was like 8 or something. So you could fail if you rolled a 1 or a 2. But anyway, by the base rules, if you fail that DC 12 check or whatever, the spell disappears from the scroll with no other effect. That's the basic rules of the game. However, there is a variant rule, and that is scroll mishaps. In that case, if you failed the initial check, you have to make a DC 10 intelligence saving throw. And that's an intelligence saving throw regardless of what class you are. So a sorcerer has to make an intelligence saving throw. A druid has to make an intelligence saving throw. And then if you fail that, you roll on this table. The table itself is pretty small. There's only 6 things on it. I'm sure people similar to the critical hit and critical fumble tables, I'm sure people have come up with, their own versions of this chart. But there's 6 things on the chart, and they are as follows. Number 1, if you roll a 1 on a d6, a surge of magical energy deals the caster 1d6 force damage per level of the spell. So you take, if it was a second level spell, you take 2d6 force damage. That's cool, I guess. Just damage. Not the worst consequence. If you roll a 2, the spell affects the caster or an ally determined randomly instead of the intended target, or it affects a random target nearby if the caster was the intended target. So the cleric uses a scroll to try and cast Cure Wounds on the ally. Instead, it affects themselves, or it affects a different ally instead.
Right.
Which might not be horrible, but it's not what you intended to do, so it's probably not going to be welcome,
Right, yeah.
That's number 2. Number 3, the spell affects a random location within the spell's range. So let's say you're shooting a fireball. Whoops, it goes off somewhere else. It doesn't shoot where you meant it to. It now goes off behind you or something.
Not that room full of children.
You probably shouldn't have been casting fireball near the room full of children anyway.
But I was trying to save the children.
Yeah, well, now you know. So that's number 3, just goes off in a random location. Number 4, the spell's effect is contrary to its normal one, but neither harmful nor beneficial. For example, a fireball might produce an area of harmless cold. So this one is just kind of your spell doesn't happen. Like it's, effects-wise, whatever you were trying to do doesn't happen. However, something thematically happens that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. That's like a thing that the DM can kind of have some fun with.
Sure. And I would, for me, I would maybe have it have some sort of a non-mechanical effect that comes into play. If the fireball does create an area of harmless cold, maybe like after the battle's over, that door you were trying to get through is like frozen shut and you have to make like a strength check to open it or something.
Sure.
I would probably try to have a little bit more fun with the harmless effect.
Yeah.
And then number 5, the caster suffers a minor but bizarre effect related to the spell. Such effects last only as long as the spell's original duration, or 1d10 minutes for spells that take effect instantaneously. For example, a fireball might cause smoke to billow from the caster's ears for 1d10 minutes. And yeah, this one also, I would try to have fun with that,
It reminds me of my Warforged Wild Mage that
yeah,
the wild magic went off and I ended up I couldn't speak, but when I tried to speak, bubbles would come out.
Sure. Yeah, because did we talk about that on this show? I know we talked about it on Crit Academy.
I think so. I think we mentioned it.
Okay. Well, for anybody who didn't listen to us when we did cover that, Jeff was playing a Warforged Warlock / Wild Magic Sorcerer, because I gave everybody 2 free levels of Warlock.
Yeah.
And his patron was the magic inside his body because he was old and damaged. Yeah. And so his body was like kind of going haywire.
Yeah. So my Warforged was malfunctioning, and it was his malfunctioning body that was his patron, and was spewing off like wild magic and stuff.
Yeah. And unfortunately the wild magic table didn't really come into play very often.
I mean, a couple times. I think we did okay with it.
Yeah. But one of the things on the wild magic table is that you speak in bubbles.
Yeah. Yeah. The way we did it, because we played like a beefed up version of the wild mage, just because I like the randomness of it, but at the same time it happens so it doesn't.
It's pretty rare.
It's rare, but then when it happens, it could potentially ruin the game. So we were it happens more often, but we would instead roll 3 results, and Gabe would, as the DM, would choose which one he thought would work the best, or be the easiest to deal with, or maybe the most fun.
Because there are times where sometimes having you accidentally set off a fireball on yourself. Sometimes that's funny. Other times, okay, well, there goes today's session, because now all the important NPCs in the room are dead.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Haha, wild magic. So, I tried to have a mix of sometimes they were beneficial, sometimes they weren't. I tried not to always go in favor of the players, not always go against the players.
Right.
And sometimes they were just goofy, harmless things like bubbles.
Right, yeah. And part of the fun of playing a wild mage is sometimes stuff is going to go bad, but but you have advantage on all, you have advantage a lot.
Sure. And then, so that was number 5. Your effect, the spell doesn't do what it was going to do. Instead, something harmless but weird happens to you for the duration of the spell. And then number 6, the spell activates after 1d12 hours. If the caster was the intended target, the spell takes effect normally. If the caster was not the intended target, the spell goes off in the general direction of the intended target, up to the spell's maximum range if the target has moved away. So you were trying to cast a fireball. Whoops, no fireball, until you're hanging out at camp later that night, and then boom, everybody gets hit by a fireball. Or I guess, depending on the situation, you're chilling at the campfire, and then suddenly a fireball shoots out of you off into the trees. And now there's a forest fire or something.
Where's this chart? Is this in the player's handbook, or is this in the Dungeon Master's Guide?
I believe it's in the DMG page 140.
Okay.
I think I don't have my books downstairs. I don't have it handy.
So I mean, potentially your players don't know what the list is.
True.
So if you say, "Oh, it didn't work," they might think, "Oh, darn it! I just wasted this scroll and nothing happened. Darn!" And then a few hours later, boof.
Yeah.
So if they don't already know, okay, there's a chance that this is going to go off later, they might just think okay, it just didn't work.
I wish there was a clause in here about the, I guess it's really just kind of the last one, that if the spell has a duration, you can't end it prematurely. I think that would be a fun, addition to number 6, because let's say you try to cast polymorph on the bad guy or something, and then it doesn't happen. And then later that day, couple hours later, you accidentally polymorph one of your party members, and now they're turned into a newt or something. If you could just, end concentration, and then it, they're back to normal, it's not as fun.
Yeah.
If they're stuck as maybe fun is subjective here. Maybe it wouldn't be fun depending on the situation, but
sure.
I feel like it would be a nice little detail if you couldn't end it prematurely.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the only, in 5th edition, those are the only 6 options. I guess they're not options. Those are the only 6 possible results. But, I'm sure people out there have come up with a D100 chart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in a pinch, you could use the wild magic table if you really wanted to. If these 6 just didn't quite fit for you, if you wanted something more crazy, roll on the wild magic table and pick, do something from there.
Yeah.
I think this is a great idea. It is fun. I'm generally against stuff being random just for the sake of being random. In general, I'm not a huge fan of the wild magic sorcerer because, like, when I use an ability, I want it to do what I want it to do. Yeah. I don't want to accidentally blow up the party just because it's funny, you know?
Right, yeah.
But I know that that's an extreme. And in this, like, most of these effects are nothing happens. You know, so most of the time you fail the check. Okay, the spell doesn't go off. Or something minor but non-mechanical happens instead. So these I don't have a problem with. I feel like in previous editions there were more severe consequences, but, you know, even in concept those are fun, but who knows how they would actually play out in a game. I think at one point I was considering starting a campaign where the player characters all had amnesia, and then I think I thought about eventually having it turn out that, like, oh no, one of you just used a scroll and failed. Haha, isn't that funny?
Right, yeah. Yeah, like starting a campaign after a wild magic thing has happened.
Sure, sure.
Like that's sort of like the hook.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this wild thing happened, and like, but you don't know what it was. That's just a part of your life now.
Right. So I mean, like, I don't know if that would have been a good idea. I don't know if it would have been a bad idea, but, you know, something, maybe it'd be fun. I don't know. At the time I thought it was hilarious. So yeah, I haven't really used the scroll mishap chart myself, just because it's never come up. You know, I mean, I've never really been in a game where people use scrolls that are above their level, and if they do, it's usually been a success, I guess. All right, well, I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today, but we do still have our social media questions. Our last social media question was, players, what was your favorite NPC you encountered in a game? Do you recall if you had an answer, Jeff?
Well, I brought up, God, I forget his name still.
Darren?
Darren, yeah, the nimble, right?
Yep.
But he betrayed us and then eventually was back on our side again, I think.
It turned out that he was like a sleeper cell. He had been like...
Yeah.
He was created by the bad guy, but had like his... You know, he was like... Oh, he had no memory of it. And then like a passphrase would cause him to turn evil.
Right.
I don't remember what happened with him at the end of the campaign. Maybe he did help us. I can't remember.
Wait, was that was in Jay's campaign, or was
that was in Jay's Eberron campaign? Yeah.
Oh, okay. What am I thinking of as far like the groups of NPCs that you brought in at the end of Age of Worms?
Oh, at the end of Age of Worms, yeah, there were lots of NPCs I brought in for there. There was the doppelganger that posed as you.
That's one person. That's one of them that I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Like, he ended up on our side eventually, or something.
Oh well, yeah, sort of. Like you spared him, and so he kind of turned his life around after that. And so in the final adventure, I had you guys encounter. You encountered various characters from earlier in the campaign. One of those groups of characters was an adventuring party made up of your old character, the guy who posed as you, and your current character's father.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, each individual like group was tailored to each character.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. So yeah, yes. My favorite NPC is the group of NPCs tailored to me.
Sure. And then I think I said pretty much anybody that Chris has played. There's another. There's actually another. This was a very one-off NPC that only showed up for like a brief moment. But there was in the first adventure that I played as Ichi, when I had first joined Chris's group.
Dang.
Chris was running. He was running this Faerun adventure called City of the Spider Queen. And like we went into the Underdark, we fought a bunch of bad guys, we came back out, and we were in this town, and there were like all these NPCs that we were like trying to save their village or something. That's why we went down there in the first place. And they were trying to help us. And so at one point, we're in this tavern, and these two guys come up to us, and they look like twins. They look identical. And Chris, he establishes that one of them is talking to us, the other one says nothing. But while the first of the twins was talking to us, he would like periodically, just like he'd be in the middle of a sentence and he would just stop talking. And then he would turn back and like give an incredulous look at his twin and be like, yeah, I know, I'm getting to that. And then he would go and talk some more, and then like, look, I was just about to say it. Hush for a second. And then, so it's just like he would, he was obviously having some sort of a telepathic conversation or whatever with his twin. But this was like one of the first adventures that I played in that I was like, that we were really into role playing. This was the first group I was in that was like really emphasizing the role playing. And so that it blew my mind. Like it was so much fun. It was hilarious. I was laughing my head off at the table, and it was great. Just Chris, if you're listening, good on you for all of the great NPCs you've given us. So yeah, that's I think my answer was something about Chris. So we got a few responses over on Facebook. Jake F says, we played a long-running Gamma World game for almost 3 years. Our party of 6 were gladiators on a reality TV series set on the moon. That's a setup if I ever heard it. Our rival team was only one gladiator named Putty, a hybrid gelatinous ape man. Just when you thought this story had started off weird, it gets weirder. He could always match our party blow for blow and was the epitome of rudeness and arrogance. We earned every iota of respect from this jerk, and he was the ultimate foil to our party's dynamic and a great solo boss encounter time after time. And yeah, that was a crazy story, but yeah, that's pretty cool. I like whenever there is an enemy that becomes, a respected nemesis or adversary, I guess, instead of just being a guy you kill and then it's over.
Right, yeah.
David C. says, Sibo, the gnome illusionist. He had a magic shop and took special delight in messing with my half-orc barbarian's simple mind. Upon trying to leave his shop, I found myself right back inside. This happened several times to the delight of my party members until I finally jumped out the window, only to find myself back inside once more. That's pretty good. That's a pretty creepy situation, and that's great that an illusionist would do that.
What's that one word command for throwing yourself out a window?
Auto defenestrate.
Right, auto defenestrate. Yeah.
Yes. Because defenestrate just means throw out the window. So
right.
Nathan H simply says Meepo the Kobold. I've never played. So that is an NPC from the Sunless Citadel, I believe, which I think is part of the 5th edition Tales from the Yawning Portal.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I know Sunless Citadel was a 3rd edition adventure, and lots of people back then loved Meepo as well. But I believe that Meepo also came back for that in 5th edition. And then Dan W says Nigel the Nothic.
Huh.
So I imagine maybe serves a similar role to Meepo the Kobold. I don't know. I know that the Lost Mines of Phandelver deals with Nothics. So I wonder if possibly the DM in Dan W's group decided to give one of those Nothics a little bit more personality.
Sure.
Who knows? So that's everybody on Facebook. Over on Reddit, Alistar the Minotaur says, it would have to be a recurring shopkeeper in my girlfriend's brother's campaign. He was a very flamboyant elven man who used very flowery language. But what really stood out about the character was that he was the shopkeep in every shop, in every store, in every town we went to. Only small things about his appearance, like wearing a different hat or a shirt change or even a different pin on his lapel, would change. He always insisted that he was, in fact, a different person and had no idea what the PCs were going on about when they tried to bring up when they just saw him at the potion shop, and now he was behind the counter of the general goods store. So it's like Nurse Jenny and Nurse Joy and Officer Jenny in Pokemon.
It's a good gag. I've definitely encountered this gag before. In shows and like I think there's like a point and click adventure I played recently that had that sort of situation where it's like it is sort of like a Jenny and Joy situation where it's like, wait, are you all the same person?
Right.
Or are you just a bunch of like, quintuplets or something? Like I don't know.
Yeah. Pruno says Griggs Murdoch. Tough old city guard that has 2 weeks till his retirement, but cares too much to take a desk job. Helps the party with a basilisk while talking like Mr. T. There you go. That's a pretty good name. Griggs Murdoch. I like that. Fire Harbinger, which I think is a new person to submit a response on Reddit. Fire Harbinger says, we have been playing the same campaign for almost a year now, and so we've met a lot of amazing NPCs. However, mine would have to be the sweetest sweetheart ever who runs the Flawless Giant. He is a half-giant, half-ogre blacksmith in the dwarven city our party is currently at, and his name is Grieg the Heavy. He is very talented at the forge and caught the eye of our cleric, who is very forge-obsessed and is an elf. Grieg, being the talented sweetheart he is, welcomes this elf into his shop, gushes about making armor, and calls out to our elf, "You're a pretty guy." Sorry, "You're a pretty guy," in his deep, growling voice, every single time he sees and talks with him. Grieg is so happy to have potential customers that when our cleric asks to work side by side with him, you'd think Grieg won the lottery or got a big Christmas gift. He became so excited and in his own way started showing off all potential materials to use. Our DM has a very specific voice for this guy that every time I read my notes or think of him, I read everything in that voice. Very memorable. I'd say we're coming back to see our new friend for sure. Otherwise, I think we would try to figure out how to take him with us. And that brings up a good point. A character voice goes a long way. It can go a long way. Yeah, not always, but it can.
Yeah, they're not all winners.
Yes.
And like even sometimes the winners can hurt your voice box.
Sure, definitely.
So yeah, be careful. But voice goes a long way.
And then over on Twitter, we just got one. Crit Academy says, Brick, red-skinned half-orc with thick black hair and sideburns that joined with his mustache and beard, with chin clean-shaven. A cannibal chef. His cooking filled his theme. Battle starts with, "Let us get cookin'." When using Hunter's Mark, he would throw a salt shaker, assaulting them. That's Justin for you.
Oh.
Over on the Discord, we got a couple people that gave their favorite NPC to use as a DM. I'm actually going to hold off on those just yet, but we'll come back to those when we do that question. So Autumn Wind says, our quest giver for a one-shot was a talking dog with memory problems that wanted to be released from dog form and apparently had been cursed by a local wizard. Yes, the dog's true form was actually a demon. I mean, yeah, can't really be surprised. And then the Beverage Tea says, Blinsky from Curse of Strahd. Our DM is a serious person and always plays his NPCs as serious. They usually only give information as needed and are pretty tame. Blinsky, however, brings out the clown in our DM, and we try to visit his toy store every time we return to Veliki. I'll give a couple more. F.A. Miller says, there's a tiefling named May that runs a bakery in the town that we've been staying at in our campaign. She is by far the favorite NPC that isn't in our party. She is the mom friend to the group's rogue, and she is not one you should face in a battle if you want to live. I love the idea of a baker. You know, a baker that is a badass baker, I guess.
Yeah.
And then just one more. Peace Roy Pancake says, I'd probably have to go with Sir Jaren from our Pendragon campaign. He was the greatest sword fighter in all of Salisbury. Equally a friend, ally, and rival of our party, and sometimes one player or another got to play him when, once again, their original character was down and we needed a quick stand-in. Sadly, he was poisoned a few years back. We still miss and talk about you a lot, Sir Jaren. Well, there you go. So I think that's a good one to end on. So yeah, that was our last social media question. Thank you for everybody who wrote in. And our next social media question is going to be, DMs, what was your favorite NPC that you put into a game? So yeah, we got a couple of those already. We'll come back. We'll revisit those when we get to covering this question. So yeah, if you used an NPC that you loved, whether it was an NPC that you came up with or somebody else came up with, what's your favorite NPC that you've used? Do you have an example, Jeff? I mean, I know you don't have a ton of DM experience, but
I'm trying to think if there was I mean, similar to like, I mean, like this is the sort of thing that happens in a lot of like groups, but like, you know, where the players will adopt a, like, you know, like interrogate the goblin and then eventually adopt it.
Sure.
You know, so it's always like a kobold or a goblin or something where the players are like, hey, can we keep it? Like, DM, can we keep this NPC as a pet kind of thing? Well, I wasn't DMing, but it was Skylar's. Skylar was running it at the time, but yeah, there was an adoption of a goblin, and I think I assisted in like the mechanics of it or something. Just be like, yeah, I guess you could technically do it.
Gotcha.
Like it's up to the DM.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Like most DMs, I have lots that I'm sure. I'll try to come up with like one really good one for next time, but one that does immediately come to mind. It was purely a joke, but in our actual play, actually, that we recorded last year, I put out a few months ago. There was a point where I think Justin's character went to the blacksmith. There was like a gnome blacksmith or something that he was going to have him make something for him. And I didn't use a character voice. And then I played up the fact that I didn't use a character voice. And so this gnome blacksmith was just like, oh, hey there, I'm the gnome. I'm the blacksmith. Yeah, I know this is my voice. I know I sound like a blacksmith. Oh, hey, my wife is coming into the room. Hello, wife. Oh, hello, husband. Hi, how are you doing today? I'm doing great. How about yourself? This is how our whole family sounds. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll put the audio for that in the show notes.
Yes, my children also sound like this. It is a debilitating disease. Thanks for bringing it up.
Sure. But I sometimes I love when an NPC is just a running gag.
Sure. You know? Yeah, that could be fun.
It's got its place. Maybe not all the time, but
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's our next social media question. Once again, DMs. What was your favorite NPC that you used in a game? So that'll do it for our questions for today. Before we close out, though, let's wind down a little bit. Let's relax. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have made the world a better place by their sacrifice, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. All right, so for today's funeral pyre, it's a little different than usual. It was submitted as like a couple lines of dialogue. So what we're going to do is Jeff's going to start one person's dialogue, and then I'm going to be the other person.
Yeah, we're going to act it out a bit.
Yes. So, at your convenience, Jeff.
Should we say who it was submitted?
Oh, sorry. Yes, this was submitted by "Ow, My Eyes Are on Fire" on Reddit.
You know, I saw the word, I saw the name. I just hadn't actually gone through reading it, and that's hilarious. That's a great name.
Yeah,
because it's all one word.
It is.
So it did not register. But yeah, the story goes as follows. Oh god, that thing's eating the paladin.
All right, let me just sneak attack.
I'm gonna cast fireball in its mouth.
And scene.
And scene.
So yeah, that's the whole thing. Thank you. Ow, my eyes are on fire. So let's raise a glass in memory of this noble PC.
Clink.
There you go. All right, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. You can join the discussion on social media. You can find us on Facebook. We are on Reddit. You can find our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord. We're also on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Go to those for our weekly social media questions. If you answer them, your answers might end up on the show. Check us out on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. Thank you to everybody who left us reviews for the giveaway we just did. You guys are all awesome. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thanks.
We may do more giveaways like that in the future, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll deal with that when we come to it, I guess. If you'd like to support the show monetarily, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. We have a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel you can check out, and we get some videos of us playing games on there. So,
cool.
You know, I don't know.
And speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories Podcast. If you'd like to submit your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, record them or write them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time...
Clink.
I'm going to cast Fireball at its mouth.
Is the other gentleman there with him?
Yes, hello, sir. I'm a gnome. As you can tell by my voice, I am the gnome blacksmith, and a good friend here, Pip, is showing me a thing or two about hammering from the old dwarves.
Just a few tricks, so nothing that special.
Oh, hang on, my wife just showed up. Oh, hello, honey. Hi, honey. How are you doing today? I'm doing pretty good. Isn't it great being gnomes? Why, yes, it is. Awesome. Thank you. Have a good day. I love you. Mwah. Mwah. I love you too. Bye.